Welcome to the Leo and Larry Show, the place to find out what you need to know and where you need to go. My name is Anthony Hall. I'm sitting in for the Reverend Leo Woodbury. Our guest this morning is the distinguished South Carolina State Senator representing the 31st District, Mr. Kent Williams. Senator, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Anthony. Thank you so much for asking. It's good to see you and good to be here. And that is Senate District 30.
30.
Yes.
That's
no problem.
Okay. All right. That's a typo.
It's okay.
Okay. Tell the audience who Kent Williams is and how he got to where he is today.
Well, I'm a Marion County native. I was born and reared here in Marion County in the lower part of the county on my family farm. There were 10 children, 8 boys, 2 girls. We grew up on the family farm, which was the main commodity then was tobacco. My parents obviously were farmers, and growing up on that farm, they instilled in us family, faith, and farm, basically learning us the value of hard work, God-fearing, and of course obviously education as well. So we worked, we had structure, grew up on the family farm, attended Turtles Bay High School, a little small 1A school there in the centenary community. And from there, after graduation, I matriculated to Florence Darlington Tech and finished up there. And from there, I went on to South Carolina State University and received my BS degree. And from there, found my rightful place in the workforce, started out in Washington, D.C. in the banking industry. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to come back south, and I welcomed that opportunity because this is home, and I wanted to be in a position to give back to a community that gave so much to me. So, had a great childhood growing up, had wonderful parents who instilled morals and values and God-fearing in us. Basically, after I moved back here, I wanted to get involved. And so I got involved in various civic organizations. I got appointed to the Marion County Museum Board, and got appointed later to the South Carolina Agriculture Commission, representing the 12th Judicial Circuit, which was included Florence and Marion counties. And then in 1998, or in 1997, I got appointed to the local school board here in Marion by the elected county board. And shortly after that, Anthony, it didn't take me long to realize I was on the wrong board. I need to be on the board where the real decisions are being made, where the money, the finances are being divvied up. And so in 1998, I decided to run for the County Board of Education here in Marion County, and was successful, got elected, served on that board for 6 years, chaired it for 4 of those 6 years. And then in 2004, decided to run for the Senate, ran for the Senate, got elected, and 20 years later, here I am seeking my 6th term to the South Carolina Senate.
Wow, what a distinguished and long career of service.
Yes, sir. Public servant, been one for the past 25 years plus. And so it's who I am, and it's what I enjoy, because, I always tell people, Anthony, to be a true public servant, you got to love people. If you don't love people and you don't want to help people, then this is not for you.
Well, one of my phrases I like to use, I guess people probably know me when I say, that's real talk.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
that's sir. Real talk. Real talk.
What are some of the legislations that you're working on that the audience needs to be informed about that you support?
Well, Anthony, it's real simple. When I first got elected 20 years ago, my platform was then and still is now is that, we want the same opportunities in these rural communities that they have in the more affluent counties, like the Greenvilles, the Charlestons, the Richlands, and what have you. And we don't want our standard of living to be based on our zip code. And that's how it's been for quite some time. And so we've worked to change that. And the best way to do that, you got to start with policy. Policy drives everything. So, we have to put worked on policy, putting policy in place to try to level the playing field so that we can have the same opportunity in these rural communities, like economic development, bringing jobs to our community is so essential, as you can see. It's so obvious, it's so apparent that we have a divide. We have the urban and suburban communities versus the rural, and there's a vast difference. Even when you look at public education, when you look at our facilities, I mean, we're so far behind, and that's what we've been doing in Columbia, advocating and supporting policy that will kind of put us on the same level playing field. Education is so key. It is the foundation to any and everything we do. Having served on the County Board of Education, and I understand our challenges here, I get it. And I'm also the Deputy County Administrator for Marion County, that I've served in this position for the past 25 years. So I also understand local government and what those challenges are. And those are the top things and experience I take to Columbia that I can share, that I have shared with my colleagues to affect the policy. And it's all about sharing the wealth. That's what it boils down to. We don't have the tax base in Marion and Dillon and Marlboro counties and those counties like that, Williamsburg County, like they have in the more affluent counties. So jobs, we've been able to, believe it or not, in the past 15 years, we've been able to have publicly announced 1,815 jobs just in Marion County alone. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot in the grand scheme of things, and especially with the challenges we have, because it's hard for us to compete. One, we don't have interstate access like Florence does or like Dillon does. And if you look, Anthony, at counties that have interstate access versus those counties that don't have it, there's a difference. We know that industry like to locate on or near an interstate. That's where you get your growth. However, just having an interstate and an interstate alone is not enough. You also have to have the infrastructure in place. That is something we have fought very hard for in Columbia, to provide infrastructure in our area. Without infrastructure, growth is very limited. And when we talk about infrastructure, we're talking about roads, we're talking about gas, we're talking about power, we're talking about water, we're talking about sewer, we're talking about broadband. You gotta have these things. All those things are part of our infrastructure that is essential to the growth of our community. And, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we realized that, hey, we did not have the broadband piece. We were so far behind and lacking so much in that arena. And it took the pandemic to bring it to the forefront. But because of the pandemic, that became a priority for the General Assembly, especially in these rural areas, because during the pandemic, a lot of the schools had to go virtual. And then we realized a lot of these children, a lot of these homes did not have access to broadband. And so a lot of them were left behind. And so, but today, about 90% of the residents in Florence and these rural areas, Dillon, Marion, Marlboro, etc., now have access to broadband. And there's still pockets where there is a sparse population that still don't have it, but we're working to close that gap. We will not stop to every household in the various counties have access to broadband.
During the Obama administration, if I recall, South Carolina, the governor would turn down money that was offered for infrastructure. Now that we have the bipartisan infrastructure bill, has the state been able to take advantage of that?
We have, Anthony. We have, I must say, and that has been a game changer for us. That bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed by Congress, signed by the president, we are benefiting from that. And as you can see, there's a lot of construction going on, a lot of infrastructure construction that's going on. You know, a lot of times the infrastructure like water and sewer, those are the things we can't always see with the naked eye. You understand? Because they're buried, but they're essential, as I stated, for growth. The one thing that really concerns me and is nothing new is that Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
You know, the Obamacare, when Obama was the president, he implemented the Obamacare, which I think was essential, very much needed here all across America, and as well here in South Carolina. Unfortunately, the governor decided not to accept that money to expand Medicaid. Medicaid, if we could get the Medicaid expansion, you have 300,000 plus families that could benefit. You know, you can't, it's hard for people to focus on work and jobs if they're not healthy, if they don't have access to health care. And we're talking about affordable health care. We're not talking about free health care, but affordable health care. And it does not make any sense for us not to expand Medicaid here in the state of South Carolina. And that's a fight we continue to fight each and every day.
To piggyback on that, you know, a lot of times I notice that why is it that people sometimes have supported folks who really and truly aren't supporting them? Because I for one am one that have benefited from the expansion of the healthcare programs, but why is it that a lot of times folks will vote against their interests?
Well, Anthony, it's real simple. People are misinformed. They're not educated on the issue. You know, there's a lot of political propaganda out here. You know this, and there's nothing new in the sun. It has always been that way, but people are just ill-informed. They just don't know. They just don't know. So that's why education is so important, that we try to educate the people as to what the benefit, what the advantages are, and what the disadvantages are. And when you educate the people and then they are educated, then they understand much better that the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. So, but that's what's going on. People are just ill-informed. They just don't know. They're just not educated. And some people, when you try to educate them, that's a challenge. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I hear you preaching to the choir.
Yeah. And so, and we've done our level best trying to educate people on the issues, and you know, we give them the facts. We don't give them Kent Williams facts. What I want them to believe, I give them the real facts, and others as well. But it's just where we are, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Good answer. My next question is, well, what is some of the legislation that the public needs to be warned about? Something you oppose that's out there now?
Well, you know, the thing about it, you know, oftentimes as a legislator, we have to play defense as much as we play offense, because there's always bad legislation that I think that's being introduced, that, that don't always benefit or for the good of the people overall. It benefits a certain group or whatever. And so, that's why it's so important to make your constituents aware. And sometimes these things happen so fast.
Mhm.
You don't really have a lot of time to inform them. And that's why people elect me and others to be their voice and their eyes and their ears to protect their best interests. And that's what we try to do. Of course, Anthony, numbers matters. We're in the minority party,
Yes, sir.
and it is what it is. And so that's why I tell people the way to change things is through the voting booth. We have to vote. We have to participate in the political process. People will say, "Oh, my vote don't count. I'm not going to vote." I mean, that does not help us because numbers, it's a numbers game. Numbers do matter in terms of Columbia. I mean, it's a fact. And this election is probably one of the most important elections that we've had in the past 20 years or so.
As a disclaimer, I'm gonna go on record as saying that I'm one of those people who think that the fact that we have the one voting day throughout this country to try to get so many hundreds of million people to the poll, I think it's crazy. But a lot of states have expanded that. I'm a fan of early voting, but one of the things that I think about early voting is that it still seems to be kind of suppressive in the sense that normally a person can go across the street from their polling places. People who don't have transportation, don't have rides, but the way it's done now is like you have to go. If you don't have access, you have to maybe go to third loop, right?
Right.
So how do we find a way to make the early voting more impactful? Because I think that the fact that because you only have certain uh, polling places, limited polling places, that early voting is not getting really and truly the impact that it could have. So is there anything that can be done to that effect?
Well, we've looked at that, and of course, it'd be nice if we had more early voting polling places. I get what you're saying. I'll use Marion County as an example, my home county. We only have one here, and that's here at the voters registration office. So when you have people living down in the southern part of the county, 20 miles, 25 miles, it makes it extremely difficult for them to get to Marion to vote early. But on the other hand, if it's important to you, you'll find the way. You understand what I'm saying? And
That's
what
real
I
talk.
and we just having real talk, right? What I have found out, Anthony, people make a way for what is important to them.
That's
I see all you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
My point is, don't use that as an excuse, because we got to remember, we cannot forget what our forefathers went through so that we can have this right. We can have this privilege, because once upon a time, we couldn't vote.
That's
we
right.
didn't have a say so in the voting process and who represented us. And so people fought, they shed blood, and even paid the ultimate sacrifice. They died so you and I and others, everybody would have a right to vote. But yet people seem to have forgotten about that. You understand what I'm saying? And
Yes,
so,
sir.
You got to do what you got to do. You can't allow that to be an excuse. I mean, we find a way to do things, and if it's a priority and if it's very important to you, you'll find a way. And of course, yes, in a perfect world, we would have a voting early voting precinct in every community, and that would be like your normal precincts. And then and that's kind of impossible because of the staffing and funding and all that. Those kinds of things come into play, but we still can vote, is my point. Now, right there in Florence, for North Florence and East Florence, whatever, you have Mount Zion AME Church right there on Chevy Street. You know, people can vote. You got Second Loop and other places in Florence County. So, you know, we have to make that sacrifice, and it's from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So you got Saturday, you know what, if you're working or whatever, you know, and there are people out there that will give you a ride if you want to go and early vote. So really, there's no excuse why people should not go out and vote early. And so we want to encourage people to vote, not suppress the voters. We want people to get out and vote. That's why you have 2 weeks of early voting, because you don't know what's going to come up on November the 5th. You know, somebody can get sick, you know, you can have death in the family, just anything. So I encourage people to vote early. That's why we make it possible.
All right. I'm going to pivot for a minute. We're going to talk about, I'm going to say climate change has been referred to as the most existential threat to the world, evidenced by the devastating storms that we've received lately and a lot of the other ones. You think about 15, Matthew, Florence. What are some of the initiatives or steps you would like to see the government take, primarily on the state level, as far as addressing climate change and the problems we're having, the flooding and things like that, especially in the rural areas?
Well, you know, Anthony, listen, I've experienced it firsthand. I've seen it, as you just alluded to, Hurricane Matthew in 2016, Hurricane Florence in 2018, and then we just had Debbie here, and now Helene didn't affect us as bad in this area, but the upstate and so forth was hit pretty hard. You know, and there are those who don't believe in climate change. All I'm going to say, something is different. What we're seeing now is not normal or what we have seen in the past. And it seems as though this is the new norm. You know, when we first had Hurricane Matthew in 2016, I remember they kind of couched it as the 1,000-year flood.
Yes.
You know, you remember that?
Yes, I do.
We probably wouldn't see this again in another 1,000 years. Well, but guess what? 2 years later, deja vu all over again. And it keeps happening. I mean, we look at what happened in North Carolina. We've never known the storm, hurricane that hit the mountains like it did this time, Helene. So there's something different. So we got to get serious on the state and national level about climate change. Now, what the answer is, I don't know. But we got to get the experts to the table. We got to figure this out. And some of the things we've been doing, because we've been experiencing flooding in areas we've never experienced before.
Yes, sir.
You know, and things have changed. We've had a tremendous growth across the state of South Carolina in the past 20 years. You look at the population growth, the economic growth that we've had. We have a very vibrant economy here in South Carolina. So there's a lot of construction. There's a lot of building going on. And so I think that also impacts our water flow and restricted and changes the water flow and what have you. You know, everything that happens below us and everything that happens above us. And I think, you know, it all impacting us. And I know working with SCORE, South Carolina Office of Resilience, on a lot of our disaster and climate change issues we've been dealing with, trying to address a lot of our drainage issues here, because we know where they are now. For an example, we did a countywide drainage study in Marion that cost about $500,000 we brought in a firm, engineering firm, boots on the ground, to study our drainage system. They came back and presented the facts, so we know where the issues are, and we are addressing those. So the state have been doing a pretty good job appropriating funding to help address those issues, but it's not near enough. And we've been very fortunate here in Marion to be able to access some of that funding to help address our drainage issues here, our waterways, some that needs restoring, some restoration, cleaning out, whatever you want to call it. We're doing a lot of that, but we're just scratching the surface because everything is driven by resources. Yes, and if you don't have the resources, you know, it's hard to address these issues. So from the state level, those are things that we can be doing and putting funding in place and studies in place to prepare for this climate change that we're experiencing, because it is surreal. It is surreal. I mean, we see it every day. And like I said, we're seeing flooding in areas that we have never seen before. And people are calling when you see their homes flooding, man, and their property and structures. And it's really sad.
Yes, sir. You know, I can relate because I worked for a nonprofit when Matthews was in that did home repairs. And in some places we got homes repaired, some places we got homes replaced. But it was nowhere near enough. Even to this day, and we know you talk about 50-16, we talk about even to this day, people will still call me who are still trying to get things repaired. What do I tell them? Are there resources out there for people that need their homes repaired?
Well, you know, you're preaching to the choir, Anthony, because I experienced the same feedback from constituents that since Hurricane Matthew, a lot of these people are still dislocated. They still have not been able to get back in their homes and been made whole. And even from Hurricane Florence, and people call every day seeking help. And that's the thing I alluded to earlier about some of the things we can do in Columbia as a legislature and in Washington, appropriate funding to try to help these people get back to at least where they were. And we made progress. Now we've been able to replace and repair thousands and thousands of homes, but we still have thousands and thousands of homes that need to be either replaced or repaired. And I see them with my own eyes, and I'm just telling you, it just breaks my heart. And when people call me and looking for help, and we don't have the resources to help them. So what I've been doing is, in the last 4 or 5 years, every year I would get money in the budget, in the state budget, just for that, to help these people, not replace homes, because you know that's, you're talking about real money there. But you know, these people who are in these substandard homes and don't have the resources to address them themselves. And so I've been getting money in the budget to help do that, working through the Marion County Long-Term Recovery, which is a nonprofit organization that was established by the Marion County Council as a result of Hurricane Matthews, to help people recover. And people are still trying to recover. And so what they use that money for is to replace leaking roof, HVAC, handicap ramps, those type things. We don't get into the flooring and things like that, because when you get into that, I mean, once you kind of peel that back, it can blow your budget there almost a couple of houses. And so we're trying to spread it out where we can help as many as possible, but it's still not enough. But if you can help one family, it means everything to that
Yes, sir.
one family, and it's changing lives. And so that's what we're doing. And the General Assembly over on the Senate side has been very supportive in me in the back here in this district and addressing some of those needs. But you know, with all the storms that we have had here in the past 10 years or 7 years, and the damage these storms cause, and the amount of resources it takes to address those, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Wow, yes, you're right. I want to ask. Let me add something to that. When I did these, when we found and we did these home repairs, one of the issues that I thought was discouraging was that a lot of times it was tied into the poverty level, right? You know, you had to be at a certain income. You know, you're single person. I think back then you make $11,000 a year was all you can make, and then they could help you. If you made 12, they couldn't. If you were single, you know, they went up as with 1 kid, 2 kids, that kind of thing. Do you think it's time that for that number to be increased? You know, because you can make, you know, $15,000 ain't nothing.
It's nothing. I could not agree with you more, Anthony. And we see that. And to that point, this money that I've been able to get in the state budget to help these homeowners repair their homes to kind of get back to normal, is not driven by that LMI, low to moderate income, because a lot of those people were able to get help because of the FEMA guidelines. It's tied to that.
Yes.
You just mentioned that poverty index, whatever.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people just right outside of that.
Yes, sir.
That might make, for an example, if you make 50 cents more or $1 more, you don't qualify. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
and it puts them at such a disadvantage. And so those are the people that we're trying to help. Now, when we get this state appropriation, those people that falls right outside of the guidelines, that don't have the resources themselves to repair their homes and bring them back up to living standard. And so that's what we're doing. But that's a federal issue. Mm-hmm. You know, they set that standard, that guideline, so forth. And that would be something Congress would need to look at, because we got a lot of people right outside of that, like you said, make $15 an hour, $16 an hour. In today's living standards and the cost of living and inflation, everything, it's not much at all.
Yeah, but I was actually talking about $15,000 a year.
Well, yeah, 15,000, and we see a lot of that. I mean,
see a lot of that.
Yeah. We see a lot of that, and listen, there's no way those people can do it themselves.
No way.
There's just no. And this is the other thing. We're not talking about people who are looking for a hand out. We're talking about people who are looking for a hand up. You understand? These are working people. You understand? These are people out there working. You know, making honest living, but the wages they're getting paid just cannot is not enough to compensate to keep them at the standard living condition that they should be at. So and we got to do a better job in helping those people, and that's what I'm doing.
All right. I might as well get my questions in. They might, as they say in the church, they might not invite me back.
I understand.
South Carolina is one of the states that does not have a hate crime law or statute. Why is there opposition, and what can be done to overcome that?
Well, the way you overcome that is on November the 5th. You know what that date is?
Yes, sir.
And that's voting day. And this is something we have been fighting for the past 4 or 5 years, to try to get a hate crime bill in South Carolina. Kudos to the House. They passed the hate crime bill. I mean, it was overwhelmingly passed by the South Carolina House, but over in the Senate, you know, we cannot even get a debate on the bill. You know, it goes back to what I said earlier, Anthony, and I hate to be redundant, but it's to be noted. This is important. Numbers mean something. You know, when you don't have the numbers, we're in the minority party. We've been pushing for this. You know, we don't control the calendar and the day-to-day activities of the Senate and how it flows and whatever. You got to get the bill to the Senate floor to get it up for debate. There's no doubt in my mind, if we can get a debate on the bill, the votes are there to pass it. But we can't even get it up for a debate. And even with the rules and working through the rules and whatever, we just can't get it up for debate. And so, you know, the only way we can change that is people got to go out and vote. Yeah. You know, there's a federal hate crime bill that they can be prosecuted under, but we do not have a state hate crime bill. And it's not about Black, it's not about white, but it's everybody. It's Hispanics, it's Indians, it's African Americans, it's what, you know, and we see it all across this nation, more hate crime now than ever before. And so that's kind of where we are. We keep fighting that fight, but we just don't have the numbers to get it to the floor, to get it up for debate. Like I said, if we can get it up for debate, there's no doubt in my mind the votes are there to pass the hate crime bill.
You know, as an organizer, I look at try to keep track of the candidates and when the elections are coming and when things are. And sometimes you take a look at the map and you notice that as you say, in South Carolina there is a large disadvantage as far as party goes.
Yes,
it's really lopsided to a certain degree. Is it lopsided because the lines are drawn that way, the population is that way, or is it that there are places where there should be a change of party, but the people don't vote? I guess what I'm saying is it if everybody turned out to vote, would the legislation makeup still look the way it is? If that makes sense.
Well, I think if everybody turned out to vote, it could make a difference. Right. I mean, even though numbers don't lie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing it is, we've had tremendous growth here in South Carolina. Our population now is somewhere close 6 million people. Mm. You know, and we've had a lot of growth. And it hasn't been in every area or every county. It's mostly been in the urban and suburban areas, not the rural areas. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, by law, according to the census, every 10 years, we have to redraw our districts to equalize that population. Mm-hmm. And so, with that being said, that population has been different for our rural area. And so, and we don't see that changing. But, you know, we got people out there that just don't vote, just don't participate in the political process. And if they did, absolutely, it could make a difference. But when you don't participate and then you're being outpaced with the growth, you know, it makes it very, very difficult. And it is lopsided. And I don't think it's good to have a lopsided legislature.
No, it's not.
Or Congress. I mean, I think you need balance. That's why our forefathers, that's why they set it up like they did and established it. I think when we get too lopsided, then I think it's kind of, we're headed to self-destruction. That's why you need that balance. It's called check and balance. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
that's kind of where we are today. But if people don't wake up and get involved and go vote, and you know, and we got a lot of people registered to vote but don't vote, and then we have a lot of people that's eligible to register and vote or not. And so that's kind of where we are. And we keep talking to the people and encouraging them and trying to educate them the importance of registering to vote and to actually go out and vote in every election. Doesn't matter if it's school board, if it's city council or mayor or state senator or rep. Doesn't matter what. They all are very important, and especially these local and state elections, because we're the closest to the people. And what we do impact them far more than Washington does. A lot of people don't get that, but that's kind of where we are. People just got to get engaged, man, and they gotta vote. And I just don't know. I don't know how you change that. We try each and every day, man, and it's an uphill battle. It really is.
But look, hey, I understand that one.
And it's. I don't know. That's all I can say on that, Anthony.
Yeah. I often say, you know, when I moved here, I worked for the Red Cross, volunteered for the Red Cross for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I do get out the vote work now. And I say, you know, the Red Cross, what I always remember is you didn't have to worry about, because people knew they were in trouble. They knew they needed help. Well, voting is the same thing. People are in trouble, but they don't want to take the help. You know what I mean? I mean, they don't want to go out there and do, you know. So yeah, it's a hard fight, you know, but we got to keep the fight, you know, because
we got to stay in the fight.
Well doing.
That's right. We got to stay in the fight. We got to keep fighting the fight, and we can't give up. We can't give up on them. We got to, you know, we got to continue to educate them, encourage them, and hopefully one day the light will come on and they get it and get involved. That's what I've always done.
Yes, sir. That's me too. I've heard this term used, and I wrote an article about it. We talked about today that a lot of things that some of the problem situation we have, funds, money. You know, we need some. You know, you need funds and money sometimes to help fix some of these things and move these things. I've heard the governor mention this a couple of times. This rainy day fund, right?
The rainy day.
The rain, always talking about the surplus.
Yeah.
You know how big of a surplus they have, and so a lot of times, and we heard the rainy day fund, and I said, well, it's raining in people's lives now. So what is the surplus, and what is the rainy day fund, and what this money that we're stockpiling? Because when I say surplus, means I think money we stockpiling. What are they doing with that? What is it for? Why do we have it?
You know, some people call it surplus, some people call it contingency fund, whatever you want to call it. Now, let me be very clear on that. Now, I believe in a rainy day fund.
Okay.
And I believe you believe in it too. It's no different than your home.
Yeah.
You understand? Because you're going to have things pop up. You're going to have emergencies and what have you. You have it in your everyday life, unexpected things. That's kind of what he alluding to as a rainy day fund. And I give you a perfect example. You know, and I said earlier, we have a very vibrant economy here in the state of South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Our economy is doing very, very well. I mean, you just think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are moving to South Carolina every day. I mean, that tells you something. But I remember in 2008, 2009, when we had the recession.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And it will come. You understand what I'm saying? Where the revenue won't come in at the same level. You know, every year is not the same. And so we have to have some rainy day funds so that when the economy spirals down and we don't get the growth and we don't get the income coming in like we had anticipated, we can fill those voids. We can still operate. We can still, at best, fully fund our state agencies. The thing people don't realize we have 122 state agencies in the state of South Carolina. 122. And so, you know, I do that in my own personal life. I think it just makes sense. Now, some people don't do that. Some people don't believe in saving for a rainy day. You know, when the HVAC system goes out, when the roof starts leaking. You understand what I'm saying? You got that. And so, you know, it's not all bad. But now, yes, we have surplus. We gave $1 billion tax cut this year, last year. I believe in, I tell people taxes taxes are a necessary evil, if you will. You know what I mean? Nobody like paying taxes, but you know, when we talk about infrastructure, when we talk about our schools, state-of-the-art facilities, programs, when we talk about safe roads, when we talk about safe bridges, when we talk about broadband, and the list goes on. You know, we talk about first responders, public safety, EMS, 911 communications. When you pick up that phone, Anthony, and you're in distress, someone is in your home is sick and about near death, and you dial 911, what do you expect? You want them Johnny on the spot. Those services are not free.
Okay.
Those services are very, very expensive. And so, you know, taxes are not all bad. I tell people, I don't like raising taxes. I don't know anybody who get joy out of paying taxes, including me. But I know those services that those tax dollars provide is essential to every citizen in this state. But we have to be frugal and not be wasteful. We have to try to get the biggest bang for our buck. So, rainy day, I'm not opposed to rainy day because it will come. My parents instilled that in us. Son, you have to save some money. They call it the rainy day fund because things will come up and you're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, you know, and let me make it clear. I'm not opposed to a rainy day fund, but what I basically was saying that you look around, it's raining in a lot of people's lives here.
I get
right?
that.
It's raining in a lot of, you know, I say you can't use some of that rainy day fund, and you know, maybe just a little peel off a little bit to get some roofs, or as you say, some HVAC, the people who can't afford
it. And I think we're doing some of that. I think we're doing a little bit of both. We need to do more. Yes. Like you said, it's raining in people's lives every day. I see it firsthand. Yeah. Okay. And I just don't hear it. I go out to these homes and I see it. And some of these homes, man, you wouldn't believe people living in those type conditions. And you know, especially our elders, our elderly people and our children. I have a special place in my heart for our elders, man. It's their shoulders that I stand on today as to why I'm where I am today. So I believe in taking care of them and providing for them. And so, but I think we have to do both.
Yes. Senator, has there been any discussion or any conversation around perhaps maybe raising the minimum wage in South Carolina?
Oh yeah, there've been a lot of conversations about raising the minimum wage in South Carolina. That has not happened. And listen, I think people, and listen, wages has gone up, even though the state may not have done it themselves in raising the minimum wage, but a lot of these businesses had no other choice but to raise the minimum wage. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're paying $15 an hour and up. I mean, even at a lot of these fast food restaurants, because of the pandemic, you know what happened there, and a lot of people went offline, and it's been very challenging to get people to work. So they had no other choice but to raise the minimum wage. And I believe in, paying livable wages, because, if you put people to work, give them a job that pays livable wages, there are not many problems that job can't cure. People can pay the mortgage, they can educate the children, they can buy an automobile, they can take a vacation, and the list goes on. But you have to pay livable wages. Now, on the other hand, what people also have to realize, when you raise those wages on up there like that, they're going to pass it on. Mm-hmm. It's still going on, passing on through to the customer. And we see that at a lot of these restaurants. You go to the grocery store and other places, the building supply place and whatever. So we have to find that balance. Tony, is what I'm saying. We have to find that balance where we can coexist. If you know what I mean. Yes, not sir. Lopsided, but the balance, and that's what we have to seek, is that balance where business can thrive and be profitable, and at the same time, the employee can also pay their bills and have decent wages so that they can take care of their families. Because what we fail to realize, and I remind people of this, is that people don't create business to employ people. People create business to make money, to be profitable. And if they're not profitable, if they're not making money, they're not going to exist. They're going to go elsewhere. They pulling out. So we got to find that balance. And I'm pro-business. I've always been, especially our small business. That's the backbone of our country, always have been. And so we have to create that business-friendly environment so they can thrive. And thrive means being profitable. And just so happen, when they create these businesses, they got to have people to work. So it's a win-win for everybody. They making money, people are employed, they're employing our family, our neighbors, our friends, and so forth, and everybody wins. So we have to find that balance, and I'm a firm believer in that.
Okay, Senator, share your platform with the audience and tell them why they should vote for you.
Real simple. Listen, 20 years we have served in the South Carolina Senate. When I return in January, I will be number 11 out of 46 senators in seniority. That means something, Tony. 20 years ago, when I was elected to the South Carolina Senate, I was ranked number 46 out of 46 senators in seniority. I was on the back row. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. If you get elected to the South Carolina Senate, you're going to the back row. You're going to get the committees the other 45 senators do not want. It's a fact. It took me 9 years to sit there in the Senate, 10 years before I could even get on Senate Finance. It's driven strictly by seniority, and you're going to have to sit there and wait your turn. I can remember when I first got elected, our unemployment rate was 20%, just here in Marion County. In Dillon, about 15%. Marlboro County, about 20%. Today, the unemployment rate in Marion County is less than 6%, 5% in Dillon, about 8% in Marlboro County because the big Mohawk plant closed down. That was my platform then. Bring jobs to our region, support public education, adequately fund our public schools, because that is the foundation to any and everything we do. Have an open door policy. It doesn't matter what you look like, your ethnicity, your social economic status. You will have a relationship with your senator. If you call my office, you will get a return call from me. You will talk to the senator. I've had that open door policy. That was part of my platform. Anybody can talk to me. I'm about all the people. I'm about representing the people. I'm about those amenities that improve the quality of life, like parks and recreation, health and wellness. We've created some nice parks throughout our district, funding them. And so I want to continue to do what we're doing. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot of work to do, and we must stay in the fight.
All right. Thank you, Senator Kent Williams, representing District 30.
Yes.
I got my typo corrected this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, for audience, for tuning in to the Leo and Larry show, where the place to go, where you go and get your information and where you need to go. If you would like to contact New Alpha CDC, you can reach them at info@newalphacdc.com. You can subscribe to the website. Don't forget to subscribe to the EJ Today magazine. That way you can keep up with all that they're doing, any events that come up that you can participate. If you were looking to speak with Reverend Woodbury, call him at the Kingdom Living Temple. It's 705 North Irby Street in Florence, South Carolina. And my name is Anthony. Thank you for being with us today. Just remember, the Leo and Larry show, a place to find out what you need to know and where you need to go. Thank you. Thanks, Senator.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good to be with you.
You're good to be with you. Like, I think she's cut us.